do some digging if you can't see it yourself, because often we need a mirror to be able to see what are we doing and really land it in our hearts that there's something different that we need to do so that we can rediscover our joy and find contentment in the journey of life that we're on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. That's right. Change is always possible. It's always around the next corner, and we have the power to influence what happens next. I hope that you use that power and you activate it. You don't just see it, but you use it and you channel it and direct it to a better future for yourself and for others. Hello and welcome back to the Unlock Lab. You are listening to episode number 39. This is my Influencing Change series, and this is part 3 of 3. Now, I don't know what I was thinking I could cover influencing change in a 3-part series, but let's just consider this introductory, shall we? I hope that it's provided you some support so far. And if you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2 yet, I highly recommend you starting there. For those of you who may be newer to the podcast, let me just take a moment to say welcome here. I'm so glad you're here. I'm the founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting. After a couple decades in corporate, in the marketing arena, I left to support people and organizations in transformation work. So I help folks to get out of their own way. I help folks to get unstuck who might feel like they are at a loss with what to do to find more fulfillment in their career and life. If you want to learn more about what I do, visit me at coachtosca.com. That's Coach TOSCA.com. All right, so part 3. Oh my gosh, how am I going to wrap this up in a bow, you guys? Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm recording this a week before the US elections. And so I have no idea what is the mood of the country, of the world, when you are listening to this. And also, I don't think it really matters. You know why? Because regardless of who takes that top spot, we are still going to keep going. We are still going to participate in this world that we live in. At least that's my hope for you. My hope is that regardless of what's going on, that you continue to say, I'm here to drive change. I'm here to make my life the best it can possibly be. I'm here to impact the world in a positive way. And so I'm in it to win it. Now, that doesn't mean you might need some grace if things didn't go your way. But I think that, well, we'll talk about it, right? Because regardless of if things go our way, we are able to hold on to our power in this life. And whether that's you hold on to your power at work, you hold on to it at home, you hold on to it in your communities, in the broader context, this is actually a major important thing to know, that you are still powerful, even when things don't go your way. And when you can stand up and you can know what your truth is and you can speak your truth and you can act in alignment with your truth, then trust me, things will get better because you're standing and owning and activating your power. And that matters. That matters. The first thing that I wanted to kind of talk about as we wrap up this idea of how do we influence ourselves to change? How do we influence others to make new decisions? The thing I wanted to start this episode with is that time and space is absolutely critical in the equation of change. I don't have to tell you, right? Now, regardless of if we have a woman president or not, how long has it taken to even get to this point of having a woman on the docket to choose? I mean, it's been a process, right? So I think we have to remember that we're not in control of any of the outcomes that we're looking to influence. We're only in control of ourselves. When we are planting the seeds of new ideas, when we're trying to help people see things through a new lens, it's going to take some time and space for those seeds to really take root. And the bigger the change, the more headwinds that we experience with the new idea, the more space people need to consider, to think about things, to see how they feel about it. And here's the thing, if they're not taking space to actually consider or feel, well, then maybe they're not ready. And that's okay too, because you've planted the seed and that's enough, right? But we live in a world that likes to force things, right? We have like our timelines about when we want things to change and when we want everything to happen. But the magic of influencing change comes from giving it space, you know? I mean, think about this whole idea of virtual working, like how many people tried to convince your leadership that you should be able to work from home a couple days a week before we hit the pandemic? And how long has it taken? And how much research has it taken? And there's still a lot of headwinds, right? Even though there's lots of data that says that there is the amount of work from home that is beneficial, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm saying this in part because I don't want you to be hard on yourself if you're not seeing the changes that you want to see in the time frame that you want to see it. Timing can range, right? It could maybe be a week after what you were expecting, or it could be a few months, it could be years, it could even be decades. But it doesn't mean that we don't keep going with it. We just know that we have to be kind to ourselves, that we have to let go a bit, and we have to let things marinate. It's like you're not going to have a good barbecue if you don't let those ribs marinate for at least 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got to give it time. And, here's an example, in the work that I do with my clients, for those who wanted to do deep transformation work, I used to start my offering at like a 3-month commitment. But I realized through the work that that's not nearly enough time, that the work needs more space in order for folks to get to where they want to be. For those folks who are really like, I want to change my job. I want to, show up differently. I want to heal from all this stuff. I want, all the things. And I just had to call a spade at one point and stop offering 3-month packages because I knew I was doing folks a disservice, and that the space to transform, the space to identify how you're getting in your own way, the space to start new habits, the space to then struggle with the challenges that come when we do change and we do show up differently, all those things, right? It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no, I can't put you in a pressure cooker and you pop out 30 minutes later and it's like, oh my God, I'm a whole new person. No, first of all, you don't need to be a whole new person, but you pick up what I'm putting down, right? So it's a practice within my own business of providing space. And look, I'm the first person that wants my clients to get to the other side of their breakthroughs as quickly as possible. But I know that that can't be forced. And I know that that timeline is entirely dictated by my clients and not by me. So I'm all about, let's do this, right? That going all in energy, but you can be going all in and still need the space for things to bubble, for new ideas to really come to life in a way that's embodied and that you believe. Again, right, we're in this interesting time in the country where we have been driving for some big changes that this country has never seen before, right? I think we all are facing a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty in all parts of our lives because innovation is happening at unprecedented rates and every industry is getting disrupted. Technology, all the reasons, right? Like that we are facing significant forces to change structures, ways of thinking, ways of doing things, all of that. And because we can just get used to, right, the rain all the time and the storms all the time, it's important to understand if you are in, pardon my language here, but it's important for you to understand where you're in an actual, like, total shitstorm and you really have to pull out and like look differently at what's going on in your life. There's these two extreme storms that people can be in. And you have to really be aware of, like, if you're in, some of these extremes that I'm going to tell you about right now. And it's a continuum. We can go through our lives and we can have our good days and we can have our bad days, and that's fine and that's normal. But if you're just like in a rut, right? Or you're like, if you're feeling stuck or if you're just depleted, that's when you have to really look and say, am I in one of these two storms that I'm going to tell you about right now? The first thing that can happen when we're trying to drive change, again, for ourselves or within our worlds, that people flee too soon, that folks want to just escape from their situation because it's just not working out. When people flee too soon, usually what's happening is they're pointing the finger at everybody else. They're pointing the finger at what's wrong with everything, what's wrong with everybody, how people are all, messed up, all that stuff, right? And the challenge with this is that you're not looking at yourself and saying, what part of the change equation am I a part of? And how am I showing up to that? And look, I get it. Like, I've been there myself. I've been in situations where I couldn't see, I didn't know the role that I was playing in these toxic environments, these environments that weren't making me feel good. And in my observation, most people aren't doing this work. They're not looking at themselves first. What they want to do is they just want to run. And the challenge with doing that is that if you're running to the next thing without actually doing the work of looking at your internal world and looking in the mirror, then you're going to bring all that stuff with you and you're going to experience the same patterns. So if you're listening right now and you're like, oh my God, yeah, the past 3 jobs, it's just turned into the same shit show, then my friend, I lovingly tell you, ask yourself how you're showing up in these equations and start looking at what can you do differently. And here's what I say to my clients, because a lot of clients come to me when they're ready to do something else. They're ready to go somewhere else. They're really frustrated. They're fed up. They've had some bad things happen, all that good stuff. Assuming it's not DEFCON 5, get out of there, no, regardless. I always say it's a wonderful opportunity because you know that you want to leave. And now you can experiment with showing up differently and breaking some of your patterns before you go to the next place to make sure it doesn't repeat. It's a beautiful thing because the risk ends up being lower, right? And so you feel more comfortable. All right, well, I'll give this a try because I know I'm out of here anyway. The storm that we can be in is that we just decide we got to get out of here, and we flee too soon before we've either learned our lessons, before we've looked at ourselves deeply and said, how am I contributing to this? And what else is possible here, before I decide that it's really not me and it's a situation that I have to get out of. So that's kind of one side of the continuum you can be on. The next, I think, is extremely prevalent, especially for women. And that storm is that you overstay. I should say we overstay because I've been in both storms and I've been in the middle, and I've seen it all. I've been there myself. And this overstaying, it can happen in relationships, it can happen in jobs, it can happen in careers, all of it, right? First of all, we may not realize that, like, this is just not a situation that's going to change. So if you've done that work and you've looked in the mirror and if you asked yourself, what do I need to do differently? Am I showing up in the best version of myself? Am I operating in non-judgment of myself and others? If you've done all that work, right? And things aren't changing and you're not being supported and you're feeling like crap every day and you're depleted and nothing is moving, then it is a great indication that you've probably overstayed your welcome there. And you know what I see happens when people overstay is, I think that's the point also where layoffs happen. I tell you, I talk to a lot of people, and oftentimes when they say they got laid off, they also add that it was kind of time for them to go, but they can only see that in retrospect. But this idea of we overstay is, I think part of it is because we don't realize we deserve more, that we deserve better, and it's okay. And I think a lot of the reason why people overstay too is because the fear, financially, the risk of going to something unknown versus staying with the known. there's a lot of good explanations for why this happens. But if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I think I have that pattern, or I'm in this situation where I think I'm past the point, it's time to go, then trust that and honor that because you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be in places that value you and respect you. And yeah, there's a lot of difficult places and spaces right now in the world, but I'm telling you, you're going to be able to find something better. You're going to be able to find a place that isn't so hard to be in. You're going to find a place that values you and you can have the impact that you want. You just have to believe that. You have to trust that. I could really go on and on about these two storms, especially this overstaying. And I just hope, my hope is that if something here resonates for you, and if you have any questions, or you're just like, well, how do I really know? Like, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you. All that stuff is in the show notes. But also, you can talk to your friends, right? You can be like, do you think I've overstayed this relationship? And I mean the friends that you trust, right? The ones that are going to be really honest with you. And I know sometimes it can be hard to find those kinds of friends, but do some digging if you can't see it yourself. Because often we need a mirror to be able to see what are we doing and really land it in our hearts that there's something different that we need to do so that we can rediscover our joy and find contentment in the journey of life that we're on regardless of where you think you are right now in this journey of influencing your life, influencing the world around you, influencing your boss, all that stuff, regardless of where you are, what's important is just to know and to see it. Because the next thing to do is to claim that you're powerful and to know that you're powerful and to activate your power to say, you know what? I can change things for myself. I can make them better. I can make a new choice. I can try something new. I can decide to participate. Whatever cards you're dealing with right now, you get to swap out some cards. You get to pick a new one. It's like Uno, keep picking another card until you find one that you like, that works, that you can throw on the pile. That card that might be the next card that you need, it might be the rest card. We've just gone through as a country here, as a world, a really big period of stress for a lot of people and uncertainty of like, what are the next 4 years of this country going to look like? Like, we've had no idea. You may realize where you are in this journey of life, and you may say, you know what I actually need to do is rest versus pick up the mantle and keep going in this exact moment. And I'll give you a perfect example. If you've been tuning in and you know that I recently gave a big keynote talk in late October, it was a lot. It was a lot of preparation. It was a lot of like emotional journeys. And then it was like this amazing excitement in being able to be of service in that way and all the things, right? And then I came back and I was excited and energized. And there's a crash after that. There's like I have no energy left. And there's also a what now? And what do I focus on now? And I can get into kind of the post keynote blues. And so, whatever that is for you, if you've been going and going and going for a long time, or if you've been stressed for a long time, or if you've been really trying to implement some new things, you also need to really assess if you're in this moment of like, I just need to stop for a minute and breathe and just not worry about it for 5 seconds. You know what I mean? And I mean more than 5 seconds, but you know what I'm saying. Like, we don't give ourselves permission to rest. And I know there's podcast episodes here that will help bring this one more forward in terms of our need for stillness and our need for rest. I'm just thinking too, like I had that one episode where I talked about our vacation inner critic because we resist the resting. So look, I don't want to be a dead horse here, but I just want to say that sometimes before we choose to activate our power, we just have to stop first, recollect ourselves, reground ourselves, really understand what's important now and what part of the equation do I want to be a part of now, and give yourself that permission to do that reassessment. And then once you do, go back in experiment with some new ways, try some new things, be bold, use your power because we still need it. We still need you to come back, from that in some way, shape, or form. I could keep going on this, but I think I'm going to, slowly wrap up here and say that this topic is vast. And I hope that these 3 episodes have given you some new ahas, some new insights, and some new questions to ask yourself as you continue to be bold and go after your biggest dreams, the life that you want, and the impact you want to have in the world and in your communities. This work is never really done, folks. So I hope that you're also filling your cup, taking breaks, taking time out, and above all else, celebrating the wins that you've had already. And that's the thought I really want to leave you with here, which is we get to stop and celebrate every inch that we've gained in this journey. And we often prevent ourselves from doing that because we keep moving the goalpost, or we just say, well, that's not enough, or I'll celebrate when. But no, celebrate now. Celebrate everything that you've done this year, this month, this week that has helped you get 1 inch closer to where you want to be. And with that, thank you so much for joining in. If you've enjoyed this series or this podcast at all, I'm going to invite you to like, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you listen to, because I love to see the love, and that also helps more ears to listen to this podcast, The Unlock Lab. Thank you so much for being here, and ciao for now.